Alright, we'll be starting here soon. Just let me get set up here. I am going to be taking a look at some pay what you want and free RPGs once more. So just one moment here. I've got to start with one. I'm going to start with one that I was actually given to review some time ago. And I have a bare minimum. Actually, I didn't always have a bare minimum, but I started a bare minimum of quality and intricacy in terms of products for stuff that I do a full video on. And back when I took a look at this to review way back when, it didn't quite meet that standard. So as we go into this first one, keep that in mind. But I did promise I'd take a look at it, and I'd take a look at it with a critical and helpful eye. And there we go. It is Can't Anyone Save the World, 2nd edition, from Kane Roos. This is available as a, I believe, free product on DriveThruRPG, although at the time I was reviewing it was actually, I think, a paid product. And this is one of those world/RPG, like in one bundle kind of things. So it's got the system and the actual world itself. And hey, thank you for joining me. I'm just gonna continue. This is I do these. I want to say once a month, except not really. It's basically whenever I have about a dozen or so to take a look at. I just take a look at these free and pay what you want ones. If you see something you like and it's pay what you want, I always encourage people to drop like $1 or whatever if they end up using it on the one in question. I will put a link to this after I take a look at it. But anyway, this is Can't Anyone Save the World. And it is a role-playing game. 3 6-sided dice, paper, and a pencil, so it's pretty much your standard tabletop game. So let's take a look at this. As you can always tell, you can already tell from here, you've got the basic rules, then you've got the setting. It's one of those ones where the setting is intrinsic to the rules. You've got your character creation, you've got your races, you've got 4 races in this one. You got 6 classes. You've got your patron gods, which I believe are part of it overall. Then you've got your basic rules, conditions, and items, and so forth. It's not that long. It's about 30 pages. We'll breeze over. I'm going to skip the introduction. It is just your generic tabletop gaming intro. It is a modular system, though. So here's your basic world setting. And this is kind of where I kind of like... This is one of the things that gave me pause to review it the first time. This is your world setting. And as much as I kind of get on fantasy names, especially place names, things like that, the world setting names here are like generic names. Like, this is your known world. It goes from a forest on one side to mountains on the other, bordered by mountains on the top. So it's basically, I want to say, about the size of a single country in another role-playing game setting. But you have areas like Scott and Angelica. Those are area names. So each of these areas, I believe, has its own divine patron. So you've got the 4 human kingdoms from east to west are Angelica, Scott, Fell, and Stray. I don't know if these are named after friends of the developer or something, but if you're gonna name like I don't want to harp too much on it, but you generally want to change up the name, even if it's named after someone. You kind of want to change the name a little bit to make it reference a place rather than a person. You know what I'm saying? I guess Angelica kind of fits to a naming scheme. Not entirely sure. Anyway, apparently there are divine patrons. There are just over 100, although only a few are listed in this document. They grant boons to their favored worshippers. So in this game, you basically you do pick a divine patron later on, and that patron gives you additional abilities. And this is just a background of the actual thing. There's the Oxkin, which I think are like literally what it sounds like. They are big, like almost cattle-like creatures, bipedal oxen. I think I'm not 100% on that. The Woodfolk tribe, I don't know. And then the Hollow people, they're called the people without a homeland, but again, I don't know what they are. I believe that the Drive-Thru-RPG page actually has artwork. Let me see if I can't pop up the page and take a look. Okay, I can't link, or rather I can put the link in. Yeah, the Drive-Thru-RPG has artwork, and it does look like, I guess the Woodkin are actually plant people. The Oxkin are exactly what I said. They're like almost like minotaurs, except like oxen. And the Hollow, I have no idea, because it's just a vague silhouette in the background, which may be telling of the person. So let me go ahead and post in the link real quick. That's Can't Anyone Save the World 2nd Edition. So you've got your history of the area. You got other locations in north. So it's basically history and location of the world. So character creation, you pick an elemental alignment. You get 2 elements from the 5 listed. That's water, fire, metal, earth, and wood. I believe that's the Chinese elemental system, alchemical system from way back when, or at least based on it. It differs from the Western one in that there's 5 elements instead of 4, of course. You get your statistics and aspects. You roll 3d6, and there's strength, dexterity, intelligence, perception, charisma, and piety. So it's like almost like a basic 6, except they switch out like constitution and wisdom for charisma and piety, or for perception and piety, which I've seen done before. You got your health points. Health points are health points, armor points, mana points, and walking speed are all based on your stats rather than like your level. So, and here we come to the second part of my like criticism of this particular system, and that is the character creation rules are kind of all over the place. They don't have like it would really benefit from like a step-by-step list of how to create characters. And I know that sounds relatively simple, but one thing that I've noticed, and this is I'm trying to be constructive here. What I've noticed in a lot of role-playing games that veer off from like your standard OSR type or whatever, when you're developing your own system and you think, hey, this is going to be neat, this is going to be unique, when it's your own eyes on the system, you kind of forget that other people may not see it as easily as you. So while the system is relatively simple, there are questions as to how to, what order to create character and such. Although it does go into it, but it kind of breaks it up with all of the explanations. So you'd really want like an outline up here, like an outline of character creation up here, and then go into each section. You know what I'm saying? So first you choose 2 elements, then you roll your 3d6 6 times up here. These are all derived stats: your walking speed, mana points, armor points, and health. And then it goes into, I believe, selecting a race. So you select from the 4 races, and each race grants a specific bonus and or drawback based on your elemental relation. At least that's what it says. Because when you actually look up here, you basically have to look at this. I don't know why I'm pointing with my finger, you can't see it. I moved too far up. Basically, you look at this. And if it's pointing to one, I believe, it's creative. And if it's a white line in the middle, is destructive. So if you choose water and fire, the relationship is destructive. If you choose water and wood, then the relationship is creative. And then down here, under the race, which bonus you get depends on the relationship between the two you got. So it's a nice way of putting some sort of customization in like the racial ability bonuses. I just don't know if it's worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? But that whole elemental relationship thing does factor into other things later on. Oh, here's the descriptions of the races. The woodfolk are woven from plant matter. The oxkin are oxen-like minotaurs. The hollow are an ethereal race, superficially resembling humanoids. They're partially transparent and become more and more incorporeal as they age. That's an interesting race one. And then you come down here, get your nice picture of your oxkin. Here are your classes that can be taken. To change your class, you must spend 2 experience. So rather than like a level-based system, is basically an experience to purchase system. And if I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, I'll get into it. But it's one of those ones where you get experience as you go on, and then you buy like individual skills or level ups or whatever. Except I don't know if there's actual skills in this game. But here you go. You get your basic classes. Got your basic fighter. Gives you multi attacks on one turn, but then they skip the next. So I think that may be too much of a penalty, but we'll see. And you gain +2 to attack and damage rolls when you have no weapons equipped, which is basically makes you like a good hand-to-hand fighter. Privateer are your basic thieves. You get tracking, although that's tracking, gambling, and then some other thief skills. So they're kind of like a thief/ranger hybrid. Wizards get magic, and they get 3 types of magic. Thespians, I presume they're the bards. They get basic magic, common magic, and then they get the ability to do social skills. Artificer, elemental mastery. So this is all fabrication based. So the artificer is the one that you get when they get thief skills. They can manipulate small objects such as puzzles or lockpicking, but then they also get construction based skills, which would be good if this thing's construction stuff pans out well. It's only 30 pages, and yet it already has like a 3 different magic systems and a crafting system, so you can see where this is going. The clerics, you get your patron god, you get 2 types of magic. There's one of those woodkin. The races are nice. I mean, the races are interesting and they're unique. I will give it that. Here's the patron gods thing, and this is one of the ones where I kind of fell off the list anyway, because as we're looking at it, it lists the patron gods, and it lists what they give, but it never actually. I don't think it actually ever explicitly tells you how to pick the patron god. Whether you pick one, whether you have to pick one, or whether you have to do something in order to get one. Because, yeah, it does not explicitly state that you pick a patron god during character creation. That's another thing. That's another thing you kind of want to put in your character creation document. See what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure that the designer of this is either going to look at this at some point or not, because they watch me. Combat is, you get movement, 1 standard, 1 free, so it's pretty much the same that most tabletop gamers may be used to. Standard action can be attack, defend, or dash, which doubles your movement. Again, if you're used to D&D, then you're used to that. Free actions or anything else. To make an attack, you roll 3d6, so it's 3d6 instead of 120, and you try to beat the defender's armor points, including modifiers from each combatant's equipment. On success, roll a number of dice defined by your weapon. So it's 3d6 versus AP. So it's almost like the standard D20 systems, except using 3d6. When a character's hit points reach 0, they fall unconscious. If the entire party becomes unconscious, it's up to the GM whether they die or not. So it's kind of more forgiving in that way, which I will admit is all right. Okay, there's the ability challenges for stuff that's out of combat. They abstract it. It's very similar to the combat system. It's 3d6 versus a stat value. I can live with that. That is just like your basic ability rolls from like 2nd edition. All the way up to like, if it says int +3. So if you remember 2nd edition AD&D's proficiency slots, and you might have like one that was like whiz -3, and then you check it against that number. Same thing, except it uses 3d6 instead of d20s. Ability contests are basically contested ability checks. Teamwork. Allies can assist you. You can add 1 to your chosen statistic. That's reasonable. Progression. You get experience points, and then you can save. You can only receive 20 experience points. So that's like your hard cap right there, is 20 experience points per campaign. And then I believe you use them to purchase things. Here's your basic currency. Resting fully recovers hit points in MP. That's reasonable, I guess. I mean, it's reasonable for a modern system. Falling damage, that's okay. Here's your condition list, which is they just tells you what each condition does. It's real standard in that. Real standard. Let's continue. Items. Now, you get your items instead of doing like a purchase a la carte. Your items are given to you based on your class. And then you can eventually get some further on. But these basically tell you, these are your basic items. This tells you what your holy symbol does. You may spend 10 minutes praying to the symbol's god. And then you perform a piety test. You can pray to other gods than your own. That's interesting. And I presume you get the bonuses based on the gods as listed above, which was only a handful of the supposedly 100+ that are in this game. There's your basic healing potion. You can throw healing potions. So it's just like if you ever played Final Fantasy Tactics, where you got your alchemist or whatever, and somebody needs a heal over there, so you chuck a healing potion at them and it heals them. Well, apparently this game has it. The range system looks very much like 5th edition's range system. Let's take a look. For the second range, do the same, but add to the target number. So instead of being like disadvantage, it just increases the target you need to hit by 2. Again, that's reasonable. This is all very basic stuff. You've got reach, handedness, and damage, and then how much skills it takes to become skilled in that weapon. So remember when I said you spend your experience? You can expend your experience to gain skill in a particular weapon. And I'm presuming this stuff like here is automatic if for particular classes. Great Axe has immediately after attacking, if an enemy other than target is adjacent to you, may deal half the damage. So you can a Great Axe has like spillover damage. That's neat. It's a neat way to do it. Let's continue going down. This is just your ammunition. Here's the magic list. Now the magic, known spells are so common that they've already been known by any class with the category of spells available. All other spells must be learned for its skill cost. Spells that cause damage deal a minimum of 1 damage. So these are all known. These are like your basic spell book. So you use your action during combat to cast a spell that costs MP, and then this is the effect. So this is very, very simple in terms of spells. I don't mind the spells. The spells are decent. But if you'll look down here, if you don't know a spell, you've got to learn experience to get it. So again, you can only learn a maximum. You can only earn a maximum of 20 experience during your entire campaign. So keep that in mind. So when you're making a caster, it's going to cost you a bunch of experience. Probably more experience than the experience needed for the I keep on meaning to scroll up there, for the weapons and armor for fighter types. It looks like the spellcasters are gonna be spending way more of their experience than the actual fighter types. Alchemical magic is unusual and it requires a circle spell spell circle to function. Okay, it's just a different type of magic. These spells aren't bad. I'm looking at them. They're not bad. They're all reasonable and they can be summed up in like a single paragraph. That kind of gets to my old school feel. And then they've got some sample enemies, and your enemies get all of the stats that your basic characters do. Which, if you're used to playing a game like GURPS, although this is a very, very simple one, then you're used to that, where you're having to come up with the entire enemy's list. So, what do I think of this game? Because it just goes on. It just goes on. There's just stats for those things. So, what do I think about this game? It's a little bit simplistic, but then again, people who like rules-light things are used to simplistic things. I think the character creation needs to be looked at. I think it needs like an outline of character creation telling you exactly what to do. I think that the fighter class needs to be... You need to take a look at the balance between the fighter class and the other things. Although, here we go. These are abilities, and these are what your fighters would use. The problem is that these abilities are also open to other people, and those caster classes would be spending the experience on abilities as well as spells. So, even though you'd expect fighters to spend a lot of XP on stuff like taunt or on your weapon skills or your flanks formation, I feel like there needs to be more abilities for fighter types, basically, because the casters are kind of getting shafted for the experience costs and everything, because they're spending a lot of experience, whereas a fighter may expend like 2 or 3. I think you can use the experience to boost other things, which might balance it out a bit, but I feel like it needs to... The experience system needs to take a look, to be taken a look at. Anyway, that's Can Anyone Save the World? A second edition. I promised to take a look at it a long time ago. Sorry, I never actually got a full video out on it. But as you can see, I've only been doing this for like... I've only talked about this for, oh wow, 20 minutes. Can't have spent 20 minutes on that. I guess I spent 20 minutes on it. I guess I could have made a full video on it. Oh well, but that's Can't Anyone Save the World. What's up next? Next is a pay what you want offering called Saint Alcatraz's Temple. I think the name is unfortunate. Saint Alcatraz's Temple. It is from Thricemark Enterprises. And it is a pay-what-you-want offering for... it just says Dungeons & Dragons. For 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, apparently. So let me take a look at it. Like, pop it up here. So, first of all, and I will put the link in the chat. First of all, I like the cover. I'm a sucker for these older edition covers like this. I think that you could have put like this is just a stock photo. This is I almost guarantee you that's just a stock photo with a filter put over it. If you're gonna do that, I want to say like try some sort of illustration filter on it. It'll make it look better. I know it looks realistic, but you really don't want it looking realistic. Okay, this is a follow-up to Peasant Mayhem. And there will be another one, An Affair Most Foul. My bad. An Affairy Most Foully. And this is from Thricemark Enterprises, Eastern Kingdom campaign setting. By Adam Fairbairn. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is only 17 pages. Looks like it's got a dungeon crawl, 11 area dungeon crawl apparently, with some maps. Okay. The current situation. The characters find themselves in the town of Verona, located in the southwest of the Kingdom of Kikini. having just arrived from Finbairn. Barona is in an uproar and is grieving the loss of 2 people. The first missing person, the group soon learns through gossip, was a young woman named Jasmine, who went missing a week ago under some very strange circumstances. According to her father, Jasmine went out to water the fields just outside Barona's front gates in the pre-dawn half-light. She went to the well in the shady glade that is just 200 feet outside of town, in the shady glen, to draw some water for the garden. However, she never returned from the well. I think the word shady is used a little bit too much there. People searched for Jasmine for the following 2 days around the area without success. Saxton, a local hunter of some renown, joined the search and now claims that he tracked Jasmine to within 5 feet of the well, but from there her tracks simply vanished. Saxton is baffled by this fact and started warning others of some type of evil being, or maybe a winged being. I did that recently. Actually, I did that twice recently in a campaign I'm running. I'm running a 5th edition campaign called Blackridge Barony for some of my friends. And I did that twice with the tracks disappearing, and both times it was flying creatures. So many people dismiss this as a ridiculous tall tale. If the characters arrived at the Stewart's residence, the de facto town hall, and inquire about one of the many bounty posters, the Manor Steward, Sir Herman, the names are all over the place here, approaches the character group and quietly and rapidly ushers them deeper into his home. Once inside, he quickly explains that the second person, a 22-year-old man named George, again, names are all over here, disappeared right around the exact same well just last night. Fortunately, he was with someone, so there's a witness to what happened. A young, fair, willowy lad of 14, named Randy, was with him when it happened. The group, ushered into Sir Herman's study, sees Randy, who lay curled into a fetal position on the couch. The room smells of stale sweat and old urine. Randy is currently suffering from some kind of mental breakdown. Randy told Sir Herman that he and George went to meet at the Shady Glen well right after dark. Randy claimed that they often go there to drink ale and talk about farming. George's older wife, Britta, who is also in the study and is clearly terribly angry, disputes Randy's statement and says that her husband never mentioned Randy or their drinking together ever. Disputes Randy's statement and says much less near the Shady Glen well at dusk. His story is simple but preposterous, and here we go. After me and Georgie had our 2 pints, we felt a sudden change in temperature. It went real cold all of a sudden, like we'd been dunked in icy stream water, but there weren't no wind at all. We looked around, and I done saw a black mist oozing out of the well, and it came down all hurly-burly like a snake mixed with water and formed a puddle next to the well. Slow like it done, started to take a shape of a woman in a raggedy black dress. We was frozen in place. I don't know what to think. It was like that evil raggedy woman put a black hex on us. At first, she done looked beautiful in a snooty sort of way. I thought I heard her talking to me, but I never saw her mouth move, not one bit. All of a sudden, like, her face changed, kind of looking like a wolf with beady red eyes. She locked eyes on my old pal Georgie. There I heard a peal of thunder, and it done knocked both of us flat on our backs. Then that black bitch got down on all 4 like some kind of rabid animal and started moving in undulating manner towards my Georgie. She reached up with her black hand and grabbed Georgie by the ankle and pulled him right down that well. My Georgie screamed and yelled at me for help, but couldn't do nothing. Alright, so that's a kind of like a creepy kind of setup. So you got kind of like a witch, I guess, that can turn into mist and starting to steal creatures away. The writing could be better. The writing could be better. And I will say that as somebody who is a poor writer himself. But the writing could be a little bit better. Probably go ahead and swing by a quick editing pass on this. But it's not terrible. It's not terrible. Okay, so the actual truth is that an earthquake basically breached an ancient temple prison for 2 undead beings. And Priests of Orcus. So if you're a fan of Frog God Games, you can get more Orcus things. So you get 100 gold per adventurer is willing. The poster promises 100 gold per adventurer is willing to put. Copy editor, please. The bounty poster instructs people to visit the Steward's residence. So yeah, an editing pass would be useful. I like the background setup so far. So there's a map on page 14 of this adventure that basically details the temple. How do you get the temple? There's an underground cave. All right, let me scan down here and take a look at this. I like the art on the back page too. That is neat. Better than the front page. You should have used that on the front page. There's the bounty notice. Except in the bounty notice, it says 50 gold. Okay, hold on. So 100 if alive, 50 if deceased. Okay. And it's per person. So, like, my only problem with per person bounties, and I understand where they come from a like gameplay balance thing, but I try not to use them myself because while it splits things more fairly, like just from a realism point of view, if you pull up and somebody's offering a bounty of like 1,000 gold or whatever, then doing the job with less people rewards people for doing a tougher job. Whereas if it's just like 100 per person, then what's to keep them from just like grabbing a bunch of hirelings and showing up with like 14 to 15 people? You know, from a realism standpoint, I'm not a big fan of the whole per character kind of bounty system. Oh, now that is a nice map. This has got to be from something. Guess it's a campaign system. That is a beautiful map for what it is. The layout is kind of spotty, but as far as the map itself, it is beautiful. And it's got that whole hex layout too. That is neat. What was this done in? Is this just a blow up of the local area? Kilkenny Kingdom, but I don't need to know that. Oh, neat. I love the maps in this. This is Barona, which is where you're at. Yeah, okay. I like that map. I honestly do. I mean, your writing needs work. A developer of this writing needs work, but the maps are spot on. I wish I could make maps like that. Okay. St. Alcatraz's Temple. So this is your temple layout. It looks like there's only 11 rooms. So it looks like there's a water room, 2 caves, then a passage cave, and then another passage cave that leads directly into here. It looks like there should be some sort of like secret door here. It's very linear though. Because there's no loops, it's just that doesn't loop, so it's very linear. You just proceed to level 8, you proceed to area 8, and then you go one way or the other way. So there's no loops, but there is one branch. I always kind of if you want to really make interesting dungeons, I really always kind of recommend putting some sort of loop in there, or some way to get back to an area. See, so you've got what level is this made for? Levels 3 to 5, so not level 1. Levels 3 to 5, so keep that in mind. You got your basic entry, underground cave with a wet earthen floor. The haunted well is located 200 feet from the nearest farm dwelling. Wait, where is this? Page 14. This is page 14. This is page 14. That is not the right map. So I guess that's the well. Or does it mean this one? It's hard to tell. Okay, so you've got the well, quote unquote. So I'm presuming that just is what's at the bottom of the well. You've got a basic strength check, or you take 3d6 bludgeoning, which is very reasonable at that level. In fact, at that level, most characters can just, like, jump it. You've got dead creatures and a leather satchel with 150 silver and a potion of healing. That's a nice instant reward to get people hooked. I don't generally use those. but they're nice to have. People who run less hardcore kind of games, I do recommend that. 6 giant centipedes. I'll tell you right now that those giant centipedes will be short work for a group of level 3 characters, much less level 5 characters. It's got the old school tally type setup for your stats. The middle cave, that if I remember is the one on the route down. That is so look, if they pick this is the one of the branch, that first branch, the northern cave, like, let's go down here again. Like, the centipedes are up there, so it's entirely possible that the characters never get there if they decide to go south first. So that's kind of semi-optional. It's like up to the roll of the dice for them to get there. Gold signet ring worth 60 gold. That's reasonable. 4 more giant centipedes. That's reasonable. Area 7, the Altar of St. Alcatraz, which is... that name is just bugging me. Take that R out. That would be Alcatraz or something. It won't remind me of a prison island every time I look at it. I'm not telling you how to write it, but just keep these in mind. If you're designing your own adventures, don't name something that has a real world. Like try not to name something that is commonly known in the real world, without intentionally trying to evoke it. Although I guess this is trying to evoke it because it's the prison of a couple undead entities. And if you're wondering why I'm a little bit uneasy tonight, just because the weather's kind of kicking my butt. Okay, so these are your basic background for the Temples of St. Alcatraz. 2 evil undead from Area 9 have killed to create shadows to attack any trespassers. 6 shadows emerge from the walls. 6 shadows is kind of brutal. 6 shadows plus 3 centipedes. That combat right there, I would say that combat right there is a decent challenge. What I might call a reasonable challenge. And what some might call a little bit on the harsh side. But for level 3 party, yeah, I can see him having an issue, having a little bit of a scare there. You get 1,000 gold. Effigy on the east wall if removed. And there's an ancient gold holy symbol under the rubble for 300. So nice treasure, but hidden and difficult. So that's not too bad. Secret door in Area 8, which is, where is it at? Area 8, there's a secret door. So that secret door blocks the way to Area 11. Okay, I can dig that. The broken passage. Hangle wraiths. The recent earthquake cracked open the lead seals and that allowed the pair to escape. Both LG and Yisun know nothing but pure malice. So you got four shadows, but they join in on the second round. So it's got reinforcements on the second round. So if your party alpha strikes one of them, then they're good to go. And there's the 2 that were missing, but they're dead. So they dead. Okay, Hangle Wraiths. They're CR5. So you got 2 CR5 creatures in there. Again, it's going to be like this combat's another rough one, but I think it's entirely survivable. You've got a nice amount of hit points. You've got incorporeal movement, which is standard for those. You've got create shadow. You've got life drain. It's got like wraith-like life drain. It's better than the normal specters. I think it's about on par with the normal wraiths, if I remember that. Yes, that's not too bad. In fact, their CR might be a little bit on the high side for their abilities. But that's okay. Area 10, the Secret Vault. That's your treasure hoard. And the Communal Tomb, which is the one that you need the secret door. So, again, another place that you may not even encounter. And it's got 2 specters. And some treasure. And some lore. And a lot more treasure. Actually, there's a lot of treasure in this room. Wow, okay. There's like a magic scale mail of poison resistance. In 5th edition, that's kind of high end. And a lot of money. All the chests have poison dart traps. And that's a punishing trap right there for 3rd level. For 5th level, less so, but for 3rd level, 66 poison damage. Wow, okay. Yeah. Alright. So, what do I think about this one? This adventure, probably use a little bit of writing. I like the map layout. I like the challenge of it. As far as I know, it's only got like 3 stars on the... It's only got 1 rating at 3 stars. I would probably put it about a 3 to 4 star, maybe a 4-star one. Yeah, that's not a bad one. That's St. Alcatraz's temple, and I think I already linked that. Yeah. So, you know, that's your basic 5th edition tomb crawl. What's next? What is next? The Bottomless Barrel 1-page adventure. So it's a 1-page adventure. I love these. Why? Because they're only 1 page and they don't take long to look at. 1-page adventure. Who is this from? By Nimrod Cortez. I feel like I'm mispronouncing that first name. This is the link to it. I'll pop it in the chat. A drow sorcerer has been placing cursors on small towns of the region. Something has to be done. So it's a 5th edition, very basic tomb, or very basic adventure. There are like 8 rooms. 1, 2, and then 3. And then 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8. So it's a tavern, a tavern. Suddenly one of you stops drinking long enough for him to notice that something is amiss. You go directly from the tavern into this place, so you get teleported into it with no apparent walls, and then you basically are in the adventure. So it's like, surprise, adventure! You don't need to do anything background or anything like that. The sorcerer is a drow looking to create the Black Sun Grimoire. You get there by means of a curse. The sorcerer managed to lock the PCs in a tiny dungeon inside a barrel, doomed to roam this place forever until they manage to free themselves. So this entire place is inside a barrel? In each room of the barrel's dungeon, they will find a mug full of beer. A PC can drink it and even share it with others. Drinking from the mug gives +5 to charisma checks, but the drinker acquires the drunk state. An extremely stealthy level 2 halfling monk follows the PCs through the shadows. Every time a PC exits a room without drinking a beer mug, he will drink it instead, granting him +1 level in the monk class. He follows the way of the drunken master from level 3 and beyond. So this, and if they don't drink the beer, they get this stalker that levels up as they go along. And then you've got a gallery of paintings, an elderly orc. This is all random stuff. 2 chained griffins. What level is this for? It doesn't give you a level. What does the store say? It doesn't give you a level. Yeah, the challenge is all over the place. I can tell you what the difference between a room with 1 Grimlock and 2 Griffins, even if they're chained, is dramatic in 5th edition. This looks, although aside from that, it looks relatively low end. So I'd say this is like level 1 or 2. And then the halfling monk, if they haven't, the halfling monk can be either a pushover or a real challenge. Overall, I think it's a neat idea. I think it's a little. I like the leveling up stalker that they give you. Aside from that, it's capable. It's a capable little adventure. The Bottomless Barrel. Yeah, I'd say that's a valid... that's a capable little adventure. I'd probably pick that up if I was completely bored one night and absolutely did not know what to do. So let's take a look at the Slime Cave of Norwal. The Slime Cave of Norwal. It's actually got a map pack. I can't show you the maps. I need to set that up so I can show you the maps sometime. It's from F. Stevens Games by James Introcaso. For a 5th edition Kickstarter, Adventures from the Potbelly Kobold, a collection of short 5th edition adventures written by some of the RPG industry's top talent. It's designed to use the basic set creatures as well as creatures from Kobold Press's Tome of Beasts and Creature Codex. I've got those. Those are actually neat. I think I've reviewed both of them in the past. Yeah, you want to check out my reviews for those. They're on my channel somewhere. I liked them, but Kobold Press has this bad habit of substituting massive amounts of spike damage for, like, challenge. That's the only problem I have with Kobold Press as a general rule. Yeah, I think I covered this Kickstarter a couple of weeks ago, maybe. Didn't I? I should have if I haven't. I'm liking the artwork for this so far. Estimated runtime 1 to 2 hours. Scaling options provided for parties levels 1, 2, 3, and 5. What happened to 4? I guess there's no love for 4. The farm village of Norwal attracts a few tourists annually. Anthal Tremal leads the cult of Slugador, the ancient deity of oozes. She brought the cult to the caves 5 days ago after learning Arthiv's tower was destroyed when the now-deceased wizard tried to summon Slugador. The cult found the basement of Orthiv's tower connected to the caves and captured and questions Orthiv's ghost. According to Orthive, the cult needs a worthy sacrifice to offer the demon lord. Anthla sends the minor oozes created in the slime to terrorize the people of Norwal, hoping heroes track the monsters back to Slime Cave. The characters live in Norwal and witness the attack. That's one plot hook. Yes, they got some good plot hooks. They're very straightforward. They're like, ooh, slimes are attacking. But, yeah. If you use the first plot hook, you can scale the encounter in the following ways. Descriptive bullet points. This just tells you how to read it. Norwal is a village of less than 200 people. Settlement is mostly farms, though a small city center supports the areas like tourism. Gives you basic things to see there. Supplies, inn, that sort of thing. You can track the oozes with a DC 10 Wisdom Survival check. That even though it's super low and any ranger worth their salt is going to have like a 3 and 4 chance of tracking that at first level, I almost guarantee you somebody's going to fail. A character who fails a check still finds the entrance to the cave, but 4 gray oozes attack the character before they reach the cave. So yeah, at level 1 it could be 2. Okay, I like the encounter scaling. It's reasonable. Creature code. If you're using Creature Codex, you use these instead. Approaching the slime cave. The sound of bubbling and an eerie glow comes from the gaping mouth of a cave ahead. All the grass before the entrance is gone. Only dirt and acid-scarred stones remain. Atop the cave's hill stand the overgrown remains of a tower, the foundation, and crumbling pillars. So it's there's so many intro dungeons from way back when. I kind of like that idea. There's so many intro dungeons from way back when that were just basically like a ruined wizard tower and the dungeon was beneath it. I actually do not mind that setup. It's classic. It's classic and it's simple. It gives you your lighting rules. This is another thing. I need to do my my so you want to design an old school adventure thing, because one of the ideas that I had was to do like a series of videos where I talk about individual parts of a dungeon design. And what I always like to see in these dungeons, you don't see in the old school dungeons, except very rare. Well, you see them about half the time. Is descriptions of like what you see in terms of lighting, what it takes to do just general secret doors, sights and sounds and such. And that's always useful to have right up front in an area where you can just refer to it instantly. This tells you about the Cult of Slugador, which I prefer Jouablex or whatever it is from the first edition, but I guess Slugador works. Get the areas of the Slime Cave, and this is just the keyed encounters. Do we have the map? Yes, we have the map. Here is the Slime Cave layout. Got 1 side tunnel, 2. Remember what I was saying earlier about loops? We've got 1 loop. We've got 2 loops. We've got 3 loops. We got loops all over the place. That makes for very interesting exploration. And it would be even more interesting if this had like a one-way connection to these. That would be awesome. But you get loops within loops, and that lets characters kind of wander around. It gives characters actual choices. Like if your dungeon is just one room connected to another, all choices in that dungeon, even if you've got a fork, are essentially meaningless. Because they're going to go in it in a very methodical, linear fashion. If you've got something like this where you've got loops within loops, that gives them a choice in terms of how they want to address the dungeon. It gives them more tactical choices as well. I love this design. It's very simple, but it's got all the boxes checked. Okay, let's take a look. This is only a few things. You got a river cave, a bubbling river of glowing green slime cuts across a cavern and fills the space with wet soil smell. This is the second adventure in a row where I've talked about a wet soil in a damn thing. You got a black pudding in there, which is alright. You got 4 cultists in Area 2. Hide and watch the battle between the ooze and the characters. The problem I have is this. It's in Area 2. There's 4 Area 2s. So in Area 2, when the characters enter the skull, each area holds 1 cultist. Okay, so I was going to say, because it says in here 4 in Area 2, so it's 1 in each of the Area 2s. Okay, I can get that. So they get reinforcements, which they gave names to. I love this. Bona, Elegy, Movesque, and then Tulip. I love those cultist names. Tulip, the slime cultist. Anthla Tramal keeps the treasure she found in the tower's basement in this cavern, which is accessible via a secret door swimming through 65 feet of slime river or a trapdoor in the ceiling. So that's Area 3. Where's Area 3? Area 3. So there is a connection. Okay, so you can jump into the river and swim to it. All right. So that's another loop that's created. Sort of. Then let's take a look at areas 4, 5, and 6. Area 4. Where is it? Area 3 is the secret cavern. Wait, there's more in that cavern. There's a gelatinous cube. And the chest has force damage. Wave of force. 1d6 force damage and push 10 feet. Which could push them into a gelatinous cube, except they're probably going to have already fought the gelatinous cube. Alright, so let's take a look at 4, 5, and 6. Ah, the artwork is great. I love that. Orthive's prison. That is 2 cult fanatics. You can go ahead and they're guarding a glass keg that holds Orthive's soul as a ghost. So Orthive can wait, if the homunculus is saved? Oh, they've captured Zorvo, Orthive's homunculus, in a small bag. So you can rescue a ghost and the homunculus. Although by all rights, the homunculus should be dead because his host, his creator, is dead. Oh well. Orthive tried to summon Slugador as a bet with another wizard. Let's get this straight. According to this adventure, Slugador is like this setting's equivalent of Jouablex, the demon lord of slimes. And this dude tried to summon it as a bet. Oh, great. Alright. So you got slime pools, 5 glowing pools, slowly shift to all the colors of the rainbow. The world 4 discards the world above them. A detect magic spell reveals that their pools radiate transmutation magic. If a non-magical suit of armor is dipped into one of the pools and coated with slime, the wearer is resistant to acid damage for 1 hour. So that could help you out with somebody that does a lot of acid spells. So far, I'm not seeing much in the way of acid, except for the slimes themselves. But the problem is by the time you get to this Area 5 slime pools... Let me take a look. Oh, where's the map? Oh, it's up here. Yeah, Area 5 is the slime pools. Okay, so you could actually have got through it pretty quick. That's the problem with small dungeons, that you get through them faster than anything. So you can actually use the resistance to acid for this encounter in Area 6, which I think is a bunch of slimes. And most of the slimes actually do acid damage. Yeah, they got black puddings. Anthla Tremel herself, who is a cult fanatic, and if I remember right, that's like a CR like 2 or 3 creature. When the characters enter this room, a huge-sized black pudding with 130 hit points emerges from the fountain. That's the real danger. The cultists you can like almost one-shot, really. If the characters kill or rout the cultists, you get a +1 shield. It's not a bad adventure. It's pretty classic. It's not bad. It's very simple. Go in, kick in the door, kill cultists, etc. I guess this is other products from the same creators. I think I've seen some of these before. Yeah. Alright, so that was Slime Cave of Norwal. Alright, we're going a little slow here. Let's try and pick up speed a bit. Next is The Haunter from Beyond, a Dread Quest adventure. Another pay-what-you-want one-shot. And I'll put the link in the description. The Haunter from Beyond. Inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, Robert Bloch, and Ambrose Bierce. Oh yeah, this is for Fate. This is basically, I'm gonna go through this real quick. This is a Lovecraft-inspired one. In the modern day, you're a group of young people in Europe, and it's basically Fate Cthulhu or whatever. And you're playing a bunch of quote-unquote young people. An heiress, a soccer player, a millwright, a server, an influencer, yeah, whatever, and a spiritualist and yoga instructor from Australia. Though these are from the NPCs, not the PCs. These are people you deal with. Okay, so you get to create greater immersion in role-playing, the players need to pick one of the following bonus background aspects. So each player picks one aspect. Raised in the occult, distracted by a new relationship, traveling BFFs, secret crush, from Russia with love. And these all give you connections to the rest of the group and certain bonuses. This is a pay-what-you-can product, and we completely understand if your financial situation means you pay. As I said, if you use these and you enjoy them, I do encourage throwing a buck or two when you have time. Because if you manage to run these for an evening and you have fun with it, may as well throw a buck to somebody. All right. The Starry Wisdom sect came to Carcosa after the fall of Benito Mussolini's regime at the end of World War II. Its main members came across Europe. Bowen was a British soldier. During the liberation of Austria, Bowen and his squad discovered a secret stash of occult relics owned by Otto Rahn. One of the items was a copy of the Nefarious De Verimis Mysteries, a book thought to be only a thing of legend. And that's direct from Lovecraft. At least I think it is. May have been referenced in other things. Okay, so it's basically a cult was formed. The cult leader died in the 1970s. The entity known as Nyarlathotep was speaking through the crystal using Bowen's voice. So Nyarlathotep itself contacted this cult and pretended to be somebody. And then the cult grew over the years. Let's see. I'm taking a look. So we got this cultist named Cord. It's all background information that you can use to flesh things out. The next cult leader immolated himself. And Nyarlathotep, now using Korda's voice, instructed the followers to kidnap sacrifices. And so one of the characters is the son of the prior cult leader. Wow, okay. That's actually not a bad idea, is to directly tie the secret, or directly tie the thread of a Call of Cthulhu thing to one of the characters. That's neat. Alright, let's see. The player characters may decide early in the adventure that no rational person would ever stay in Carcosa. They may try to leave before the Selma conducts the Ouija board session. If this occurs, offer them a fate point to accept that they decide to stay. And if they don't, tell them to go play another adventure, because I've done that before. It's like, okay, I set this adventure up, and they're like, nobody would actually stay there, and they all leave, and I'm like, okay, well, have fun playing another game, because that's what I had prepped to run. So the characters may decide not to stay there. I love it. All right, you get your character introduction. This is a fairly decent adventure. It gives you backgrounds on Carcosa. Tells you what they know, what they've learned. And this is how they get there. And I guess Carcosa is that town I just scrolled by up here. Yeah, some of these small European towns, they just look so interesting. The Killing Square, a spooky place where people died. So these are all portions of that area. And encounters. So each of these has like an event. The Killing Square, they find like a weird sigil. The Thing in the Attic. A door to this 3-story home is missing. Inside, the furniture is ruined and rotting. Got several dozen bullet holes there, and then they find something weird in the attic. Old boxes of junk. There's a hole in the soldier's skull. An Italian soldier's skeletal remains is in the attic. Interesting. Okay. So, get some rabid rats they can come across, I suspect, in the same place they find the dead soldier. Ritual houses. There's a triangle of protection around the cathedral, and each of those points is in a house. So it's basically like a really... These are just points of interest within the city or within the town that the characters can come across. There's the temple itself. Descriptions of the interior of the temple. I suspect I don't think there's any maps. Are there any maps? Yeah, this is just room by room descriptions of the interior of the temple. A lot of it is, rather than having box text, it's just sketched out and left to the DM or the GM to go ahead and flesh it out in description. I like that. I like that. That's a good way to do it. They have after exploring this creepy town and finding like this cultist base, then they have a Ouija board seance. Because, as you do, if you're investigating a weird mystery cult in an abandoned town, you, of course, want to carry your Ouija board so you can go ahead and have a seance. Sometimes I wonder if these characters don't deserve to die. You get the book De Vermis Mysteris, which is on par with, like, the Necronomicon. And then after reading from the... What the... If the character with the raised by the occult aspect examines the book, they will blindly turn to a page and read aloud. Doing a little bit of Bruce Campbell there. Just, you know, creepy book. Just read aloud. Sure, why not? You get this big octopus. An octopus with antennae. That kind of creeps me out. A mimicking creeper. They got the... It's well put together. So they run down the stairs after that encounter with the weird creature that they summoned by randomly reading a passage from the book, and see this dude. Marco Perron is waiting armed with a shotgun and 2 silenced pistols. He will open fire on any creepers that are in pursuit, and then he leads them to a safe place, tells them the background, that he's a police detective that was involved with studying the cult, like I think 60 years ago now, because it's set in the modern day. And then you've got, or not 60 years, 50 years, my bad. I can add, I promise. Are you alive? Are you alive? Are you alive? What is this? That is certainly something right out of Call of Cthulhu. Or, you know, Bloodborne. So, you get some other random events that happen. Then, some NPCs decide to actually start summoning Nyarlathotep so that they can confront them. That seems like an incredibly bad idea. So then Nyarlathotep, which I have no idea how to pronounce, appears. And it's this. It's a woman with a squid face. Which is actually one of the least disturbing incarnations of Nyarlathotep that I've read about. So then they face it, and there's the end. So... Well, I say it's the end, but there's this big epilogue afterwards. And including in instances of if the Elder God wins. In which case they become sacrificed by a cult. This is the reference section, which is just what you need to go ahead and run it. These are like the handouts. Map of Carcosa. Map of the temple. Okay, so you basically run it from there, and these are the non-player characters that you can reference. That's not a bad little. That certainly has the Cthulhu mythos aspect kind of in spades. I'm not familiar with a fate system. I do need to learn it, and I do need to, if not run it, at least kind of review it sometime. I do need to do that because there is a lot of good fate stuff out there. Yeah, so that's got it in spades in terms of atmosphere. I like that. That was the Haunter from Beyond, and I think I did I link that? Yeah, I linked that. Okay, that's not bad. So let's take a look at what's next. Next is The Hollow. It's a pay-what-you-want product. Another pay-what-you-want product. The Hollow is... for the Apocalypse World engine, which is not my most favorite engine. I don't know what it's going to be. It's a body without a soul. So I actually don't know that I actually have looked through this yet. Have I looked through this? So it's like a body without a soul. For Blades in the Dark, which is Apocalypse World engine. So when you play a Hollow, you earn experience when you struggle with your urges or lost emotions, when you address a tough problem with perfect obedience or willful defiance. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so I haven't read a lot of these playbooks. So I don't really know. I know the basic Apocalypse World system. I'm sorry, I had a message somebody came up with. I don't know enough about the basic Apocalypse World system to really go into it. Or I don't know anything about the Blade in the Dark system. So I'm not sure how much information I can get here. It looks like you've got a creator, and you got one of several creations. You get urges that are basically like, I guess you pick one or something, and then that kind of tells you how you gain experience by acting on those urges. And then you get special abilities. You feel no emotion except those you've reclaimed, and you reduce all stress automatically at the start of each downtime. You can enter into emotional fugue at any time. So these guys are basically like emotionless shells. Okay. You can spend a point of special armor to fully resist consequences of distraction and detection, or put yourself into an action. I don't know the mechanics of it. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I'll take a look at the next one. But if you know enough about like Apocalypse World stuff or Blades in the Dark, it might be worth checking out. It looks to be interesting in terms of conception, or in terms of the concept. Yeah, in terms of the concept, it looks interesting. That's not too bad. Vice grip. So because you have no soul, you can like just push your body to do something completely inhuman. Okay. Yeah, and then that's just the Blades in the Dark. I don't know enough about Blades in the Dark. I'm very sorry. I probably shouldn't have even put it on the list, but I'm trying to diversify and cover more than just D&D stuff and OSR stuff. I like the concept of that one. The next one is Into the Dungeon, which is a pay-what-you-want system from Tales by Bob. Now, if you're not familiar, Tales by Bob has done a lot of like really quick playing RPGs in the past. And there are a ton of like files for this one, but I'm just going to take a look. It comes with like the actual game and then a couple adventures. And basically what I'm looking at is, okay, so he comes up with the Tales by Bob stuff comes up with a lot of like simple RPGs that are more suited to very specialized circumstances. Like in one of them, you play members of a prehistoric tribe. In another one, you play very specific like very specific members of a very specific military, group. So this one is like a kind of like a dungeon crawling version of the same thing. As you can see, they are incredibly simple. This thing only has 2 pages. So you get Wizard, Cleric, Thief, Fighter, Barbarian. Each one gives you like 1 entry there. And you can either roll and you roll 1d6 to see your character type, or, you know, select one. Again, you pick your race or select or roll for it. Spells, I'm presuming that you get spells of a particular type. It's all very simple. It just does like 1d6 damage. Every time you level, you gain 2 hit points and 2 spell points, so it's very slow progression on that, although that's to be expected with a Games by Bob thing. And it gives you your... This is all very similar to the stuff I've covered from him from that system before. So you get D6s for everything. You do D6s for everything. Odd, it succeeds. Even, it fails. So it's like a 50-50 chance of success or failure. Although, in combat, it uses something similar, but you have to look up to see what you get. So this is almost identical to the other Games by Bob stuff. So there is that. So give me one moment. I gotta respond to somebody that just messaged me. Alright, sorry about that. Oh man, what the hell? What timing? Hold on. Yeah, man. What? Message, phone call, back to the stream. Yeah, that's Into the Dungeon. The Games by Bob stuff, there's a lot of them and a lot of different types. This one's different in that it has actual like adventures associated with it, but none of these adventures are incredibly detailed. They're just rooms, and you like randomly generate the rooms and it tells you what's in it, and it's usually just a single line of encounter. And then ongoing and then ongoing ideas of what's in there. So I think the next one is that I had planned is similar. I'm not even gonna look into it. It's just another example. Mythos Mishaps. It's from the same person. It uses the same production. I don't actually know who. Yeah, I think Tales by Bob is just one person, Bob McGow or whatever. Mythos Mishaps. I'm gonna link it. It's just the exact same system with like a Cthulhu skin. So these systems may have a few details that vary between them, but not much. Okay, so the next few things that I'm going to take a look at, I've been going on for a little while here, but yeah, I got time. The next few things I'm going to look at are different. Next one I'm going to take a look at is lasers and six-siders. This is from Precus Intermedia, who has put out a bunch. Precus Intermedia has put out a bunch of old school rules light systems before, and they have also put out a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but several classic games. And I'm actually going to skip to the end page on this, because just to give you a thing. If you've ever played Shatterzone, Precus Intermedia has apparently put some of that stuff up. Shatterzone is an excellent old system. Used to be from West End Games, I think. I could be wrong about that. Got Adventures in the Misty Isles, which is an OSR equivalent. They've got the Adventures in the Misty Isles is the Wee Warrior stuff from the late 1970s. You got the Palace of the Vampire Queen, the Dwarven Glory, and the Misty Isles. Precus Intermedia puts all of that stuff out, and they put Swords and Six-Siders out. And I suppose this Lasers and Six-Siders is basically Swords and Six-Spiders, or Swords and Six-Siders in space. So you've got your 70s style Star Wars get up here. You got your weird aliens. You got your 1d6 based OSR space adventures. So it's lasers and six-siders. So it's basically swords and six-siders. In fact, it says right here, based on and compatible with swords and six-siders. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Character creation starts with general rules. All rolls are 1d6. Most of the time is 1d6. Some rules may call for half a die, which is 1d3. Others require a roll of more dice, such as 2d6 or 3d6. In such cases, their values are added together. A roll of 1, the number actually rolled on the die apart from any modifiers, always fails, and a roll of natural 6 always succeeds. So it's a very rough granularity in that system. So there's the chances of success and failure are huge. Operatic games just means that it is based on the operatic game just means that there are options within there. If you want to play something that does resemble like Star Wars and such. You choose a race, you determine the ability scores. You choose a class, you determine hit points. All classes use like 1d6, although it may be modified. Armor and weapons. So this is all very basic if you've played OSR games. Power points, and choose psychic powers for scions, which is your spellcasters in this one. Because for some reason, everybody in the sci-fi always uses psionics instead of actual magic. You choose contacts in your class list, and then you name your character last. Nice. So the races got humanoids, which are not just humans, but all humanoids. And you get like a modifier based on a d6 roll. You gain 1 to a single ability of their choice. Also make a d6 for another one. So you can be a humanoid covered in fur. You can be a humanoid with claws. You can be a humanoid that's a latent psychic. You can be a humanoid that's a +1 to a latent secondary ability, etc. Insectoids, you get a +1 to AC, -1 to strength, and +1 to dex. Reptoids, which are the reptiles. Nice smoke there. You get +1 to DR, which is... I want to assume damage resistance, but I'm not sure. Save mods. Yeah, you're really poor at saving against cold. Alright, mechanoids. I always love like the sci-fi stuff that gives you the chance to play androids or robots of some sort, because there's so many robots in sci-fi that I can't imagine that any one good system would just, cover all the different types of robots that you see in these things, or all the types of droids. All right. Ability scores, you got your basic 6. Strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. Except they're all from 1 to 6. Now, I have looked at swords and six-siders before, and the way they do it is this. 1 to 6, roll 3 dice and record their numbers, and then record their 3 opposite numbers. So, no matter what you roll, you're going to have a balanced character. Because you only roll 3, and then you flip them for the other 3. And that guarantees that every character, even though there's a lot of randomness in there, is going to have 3 good stats and 3 bad stats. Just from the way the dice roll. If you roll 2 good stats and 1 bad stat, then the flip is going to go 2 bad, 1 good. So you're always going to have 3 and 3. It's just a scale of how good or how bad they are. I like the way that works. I'm not 100% on it because I don't believe that everybody's perfectly balanced in real life, but it's useful for game balance while still offering some randomization. All right. So, and this just tells you what you can expect to look like depending on whether that stat is high or low. Got classes. Mercenary. Mercenary's got to be your fighter class. You get... It doesn't give you like a flat bonus, but rather it lets you reroll hit points, and that's nice. Rampage. When a mercenary lands a killing or melee range attack, the excess damage hits an adjacent target. So it's kind of like multi-attack, but not really. They only really have 6 levels in this game, which is about on par for OSR style stuff. Operational awareness. You can detect ambushes, booby traps, and being stealthy, etc. Scions. You get psychic powers. Period. And it tells you what power level to be at. Which is basically, if you look at it, it's basically the same or very similar in terms of like spell level progression. Oh, it's a little bit faster. Instead of being like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, it's 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. Spacers. Spacers are the people that almost nobody wants to play until you actually get into the spaceship. You ever notice that in these sci-fi games, the guy with the ship is the one that always gets like shafted because they're really good in their ship, and then they're not much good anywhere else. But in this one, I guess they act kind of like a bard because they can inspire the crew. All right, and they do get spaceship bonuses, as expected. Tech is your engineer. You can be a medical tech or an engineer tech or a security tech. So it can be your thief, your medic, or your engineer. I like the classes in this one. I do. Starting equipment, you begin with whatever basic equipment, weapons, armor they can use and carry, but no electrum. So you start with no money, but whatever equipment you want, which is a decent way of doing it. It's quick. It's easy. You get your laser sword. You're legally distinct from a oh hell, now the lightsaber. You're legally distinct from a lightsaber laser sword. These are pretty basic melee or weapons. All right, let's see. Armor class and damage reduction. So armor class represents how hard it is to hit. The higher AC, the higher it is to hit, indicating the number needed to hit on the attack rolls. So since all rolls are 1d6, having that 6 means that you're only going to get hit on a 6. And then your DR, because damage is based on how high you roll or whatever, apparently, I think, I could be wrong. I think damage is based on how high you roll. Don't quote me on that. Then that DR can be quite impressive. And you just subtract it from every hit. Every hit does at least 1, even if you have 3 DR and only take 3. That's a nice way to balance it out. Hit points and hit dice are pretty much, if you're used to OSR games, you got it. Power points are what you use for psychic spells. And then you get contacts, which are your basic character contacts. Leveling. You gain levels by completing missions. You don't do experience, but rather the chart below as example reasons for a character to gain a new level, but the decision ultimately up to the game master. So you don't roll randomly. The game master just picks. Although, so instead of experience, it's like 1 mission you get to level 2, 3 missions you get to level 3 or whatever. That's not a bad way of doing it. Another one that does that is aside from swords and 6-siders is Heroes and Monsters. They do a similar way where you just after X number of adventures you get a level up. All right, assembling your team, that just tells you what you need. You get class skills. Tells you how to make ability checks, which I'm presuming is just 1d6. Yeah, it's 1d6 plus mods, and then it's 6 or greater. Or 2d6 if it's in your wheelhouse, I guess. All right, you got combat system. Combat's by rounds, 6-second rounds. You got surprise on a 1 or 2. Yeah, the old school surprise, that is brutal. That is brutal. Because you got like a 1 in 3 chance of not being able to do anything for that round. Initiative is 1d6, and then you just count. Okay. Movement is up to 40 feet, unless you've got something else. To make an attack roll 1d6 and add any hit modifiers, then it goes equal to or greater than the AC. Damage rolls, roll for damage 1d6 and apply any relevant modifier. I said that already up there. So I made a mistake. Damage wasn't based on the attack rolls. It's 1d6 to attack, then 1d6 for damage. Range is really, really basic. It gives you your special combat. This is a very basic system, but it's very quick to learn. I actually like this. I don't know that I'd run it because I've got other rules light systems that I'd prefer to run, but lasers and six-siders and swords and six-siders looks very simple to run, very, very, very quick. Okay, so you get your saving throws. Saving throws based on stats. Save versus psychic powers. It just basically tells you to use strength or con. Death saves. When a character is reduced to 0 hit points, they're still considered alive. A con save must be made each round in order for them to stay alive. Failing means the character dies. So you just roll that, and I guess until you're fixed. And then special forms of damage, I'm going to skip that. All characters recover lost hit points and power points during a break in the action because the way they do it is just very, very loose. So rather than, you know, resting, I guess in a dungeon or something you would be resting, but this is like sci-fi, so your break in the action would be like when you get back on the ship and leave, or when you've chased off the enemies and you get to a hideout or whatever, so you can heal there. Repairs on a ship gives you repair rules. Again, it's just ability checks, which is just 1d6 versus your ability. Psychic power rules: you must stand still and remain uninterrupted when using a power to be concentrating. Every time you increase in level, you can change your powers. It means a completely new set of powers can be chosen for the character, or some old ones can be forgotten, etc. Save versus powers. Let's see what kind of powers they have. They have your ability buff, which is basically the equivalent of your bull strength, your eagle splendor, or whatever. Control portal, which I'm gonna believe is your open and or closed, your hold portal, or your knock. Detection, detect blank. So they're very generalized. Jump, which is in almost every system I've ever seen, and yet I've only seen anybody ever cast it like one time, like reasonably. Precision gives you a reroll, not bad. And then telekinesis, which is basically mage hand. Yeah. Oh no, it's like a super mage hand, because if you're at higher level, you can actually get a decent one. So yeah, these are all kind of like reskinned basic D&D spells, which is not bad. I mean, they're useful. Gives you vehicle rules. It's just like regular combat. Again, the ranges are just like regular range. Got your sci-fi with a like the helm of a ship with an actual like old sailing wheel. The vehicle stats. I'm not going to get into it. It's got stats for your various vehicles, as can be expected in a sci-fi thing. It's not a bad system. Drone rules, nice. You almost never see those. People forget them. This is the Game Master section, and it gives you monsters. Gives you rules for morale check. The monster stat. So there's just one monster stat, which reminds me of and I was going to point to it, and it's not there. Of Tunnels and Trolls, where they've got like the monster rating, except here it's got like the monster stat, and everything derives off the monster stat. Monster stat tells you how many hit points it is, how much armor they have, how much DR it is, how much they get the hit bonus, and what damage they do, and what saves they do. And then here you've just got descriptions of all the monsters that you can fight, or some monsters that you can encounter. Rules for creating new monsters, as to be expected. Discoveries are kind of a reward. So I don't know that. Yeah, aside from like advancing per X number of things, the discoveries are like your magic items, except since there's no magic items, you get weird alien tech. And here's, I guess, some examples. Got cyberware, nice. So you can take implants and such on your character. Cybernetics are not rolled. Okay. So these are things if you get cybernetics, like if you get your hand cut off by a laser sword and you have to have it repaired. It's not too bad. And then just rules for just guidelines for designing an adventure. That's not a bad system. Lasers and six-siders. I'll say that's a solid little system. I would definitely play it if I was interested in sci-fi and had to throw something together like instantaneously. Did I already link that? No, I didn't. I didn't link it yet. Here, I'll link it right now. There's lasers and six-siders available on DriveThruRPG. Well, we only have a few more to go, and I may actually not get to all of these, but we shall see. Next is the Fantasy Hack. The Fantasy Hack is another pay-what-you-want offering. Let's see if I can get it. Here we go. The Fantasy, with a PH, the Fantasy Hack. It is a tabletop role-playing game designed to evoke the mood and tone of a certain series of JRPG video game titles. I'm presuming that's why there's the PH in there. I have not played. Phantasy Star. If that's in fact what they're going for. If they're going for Final Fantasy, who knows? So it's 14 pages. Core mechanic is a D20 versus attribute tested. That's pretty instant. Monsters don't make tests. Instead, the character must defend against them. So it's one of those things where only the players make tests. Monsters only roll for initiative and damage when they do it. Characters have 6 core abilities: attack power, defense power, attack accuracy, evasion power, mental strength, and luck. And then 2 drive score, health points, and technique points. There's your JRPG stats right there. They're entirely based on the lineage of your characters. So if you're a human, knife found, which is genetically altered humans with great nimbleness, and then cast, which are artificial humanoids. I don't know what JRPG this is based on. Somebody enlighten me if you know. Is this Phantasy Star or something else? Because it doesn't say. And then your stats are based on... they are randomized. They are randomized. So there is some randomization in there. Alright, so you got 3 classes. Hunter, Ranger, or Force. Which is close combat, range combat, and techniques. Got your equipment. You begin with 800 meseta to spend. And since it's a JRPG, you get everything from guns to swords. Okay. Efficiency. I don't know what efficiency does. I'll have to look at it. It seems to be involved with... I don't know. It doesn't say. See, because your basic scores give like damage and or another initiative bonuses or other things. Whereas these 3 at the end just give you with efficiency X. And as usual in a JRPG, the high-end stuff gets super, super expensive. Weapons and items have an attribute called efficiency that details how effective they are. When used, roll a number of dice equal to the efficiency and select the best one. Okay, so it's basically like a super advantage type thing. That's cool. Techniques are magical effects based on your attacks. Foy is a fireball. Jifoy is a... Okay, so they've got like weird JRPG names. These are all like magical spell type stuff. And it's written very much like you'd expect in it, like an old school JRPG. Which is just like an efficiency buffs. Straight up damage. Straight up restoration. And how you buy them. When outside of a town or a dungeon, it's likely the characters will run into dangerous biomonsters. Is it like a random encounter? Combat begins with all characters and biomonsters apart from each other. On their turn, they can move close to another character. It's only possible to make melee attacks against nearby enemies. So everything is very abstracted. Instead of having like a grid or whatever, you're just close or far. And then you can either move afar or close. So that's all the DM's keeping track of, is whether you're close to your enemy or not. The Fantasy Hack uses an initiative system similar to Mike Merle's Greyhawk initiative system, which I don't know because I don't follow that. I presume it's every single round. Yeah, all participants in combat roll initiative each round based on the number. Don't look. Here's another thing. If you're designing your own RPG and you want it to be completely separate from D&D, and you don't want to reference, if you want it to be completely separate from D&D, and in fact you're trying to model a completely different system, don't reference D&D. Just say all participants in combat roll initiative each round. But that's all you had to say. That's all you had to say. You know, you can cut out that system similar to the Greyhawk initiative system. Biomonsters HD and D8 for hit points. Not bad. Attacking, defending, and damage. When a character attacks, they make an attack test for melee attacks and attack accuracy for ranged attacks. And then when the monster attacks you, you make another check, either DFP or EFVP, depending on resisting it or trying to defend it. So it does simulate a JRPG. My problem is this. This system actually doesn't seem that bad. They use milestone experience. That's not bad. This system doesn't seem bad overall, except I only have one problem with it. Well, two problems. Number one, I don't like JRPGs for the most part. I do like a couple of them. I do like the Dragon Quest series, but I don't like JRPGs in general. Although somebody may change my mind on that. Somebody may change that mind on that because I've been recommended a couple of them I need to check out. But number one, aside from not liking JRPGs, my other problem with the system is if it's gonna model a JRPG that well, why not just play a damn JRPG? Why not just bust out a system and play it? Because I don't know, are that many people that want to sit down around a table and play like an RPG, but then simulate their characters as being members of a JRPG system? I guess I'm just missing it. Character sheet's pretty straightforward. I kind of wanted this character sheet, like, I gotta be honest, I kind of wanted this character sheet to have like a white border and then like a blue interior and be like a console type thing. Although I think that would be like murder on the ink of printers. These are random. Oh, I love this. Random conversations in town. Did you know that you can hold up to 8 items? I have lived in Sapio all my life. Welcome to Tintagel Castle. I love this. They've actually got an NPC comment chart. That's funny. All right. Well, that's the Fantasy Hack. Oh, I've already linked it. Tell me I haven't already linked it. I've already linked it. No, here's the Fantasy Hack. It is a pay what you want offering. It's not bad. It's not bad. It could use some artwork. And it could use some, like, I don't know what system it's trying. I don't know what JRPG it's trying to mimic, so I can't really comment on that. I recognize the basic tropes, but I didn't recognize which one it's trying to mimic. All right. Next one is Sword and Musket. I don't even know if I'm going to cover this one. Is this it? No, that's a particular thing. Did I get the actual Sword and Musket? Yes, I did. That's the adventure for it. The Dragons of Aragon. That's an adventure for it. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to cover that one. Sword and Musket is an Elizabethan adventure game for 1 to 3 players. It is pay what you want. I will post it in the chat. And it is 50 pages, so I will try to probably cruise through real quick. But I gotta make another thing here. Yeah. So first of all, right off the bat, I love the artwork. Even though it's kind of got that painting look, I kind of love it. So this is, I guess, set in the sword and musket period, of course. For only 1 to 3 players, that's unusual for a tabletop game. It takes its cheap inspiration from Gangbusters by Mark Akers and Rick Krebs, which I have not played, but I did get to take a look at, but I haven't actually looked at it yet. It also draws inspiration from Before Against Darkness, which I love, which is why I keep covering expansions on my RPG News Roundup. That is a good system. Offworlders by Chris Wolf, which I've not played, and In the Light of a Ghost Star, which I've also not played, but I have heard of. So, what do we got? It's going to be 3 parts. I'm assuming this is the sampled adventure, yeah. So, only really 20 pages of rules, so we may be going through this quick. So, introduction is just to let you know it's a tactical adventure game set in Western Europe in the last 2 decades of the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. You play a combination of elite soldier, courtier, and spy master, which were often one and the same, undertaking perilous tasks that draw on a number of skills and resources. So it requires polyhedral dice. That is a weird-looking D10. That is a weird-looking D20, for that matter. Hell, all these dice are deformed. What the hell? Alright. Guided mode. Okay, what do we got? You can be co-op mode, up to 3 players working together, complete a mission. Player versus player for simple skirmishes. Player may take sides, squaring off on the battlefield, etc. Guided mode, 1 player may either adapt existing content or guide the players. So you got the GM'd mode, your co-op, no GM thing, or player versus player. That's a decent thing. Alright. Hold on a second. Okay, so you character creation, you roll 1d4. Hold on a second. Alright, so each of the 3 core abilities is assigned a die, d8 to d12. Players roll on the table below to generate the die size assigned to each stat. So you don't, instead of having a number, you have a die in each stat? Okay. But there's only 3 core abilities. So you have 3 classes. Alright. So you have the attack stat, which anytime a player uses force or attempts to harm another, they roll a die and compare the outcome to their opponent's difficulty rating. So instead of like having an attack stat of 6, you have an attack stat of a d8 or a d10 or a d12. That's alright, I guess. Court, which is social skills, same thing. And espy, which is espionage, same thing. I actually don't mind that. It's really abstract. It is really abstract. But I don't mind that system. This vaguely reminds me of the dice steps from the original, what was it called? I could have sworn I had it on my shelf. Like the original Eternity, which had the dice chains. Alright, you have health and damage via hit points. Beginning players roll 1d4 and add 20 to determine starting hit points. Anytime they gain 10 experience, they add 1d4 hit points. Armor worn adds the bonus to the hit points. So instead of being DR, armor is just like additional hit points. Players reduced to 0 hit points during game must roll a 3 or 4 on a d4 or perish. So you get a 50-50 chance. Players who survive are in critical condition and must be treated within 24 hours or they will die. In co-op or skirmish mode, assume any moderately sized city has at least 1 surgeon. Alright. Money and equipment, got standardized currency, shillings and pennies and pounds. Got your equipment lists, very standard. Encumbrance. You can carry 4 items without being encumbered. An item is defined as one distinct weapon or article of gear. So if you've got like a 6 count of candles that weighs the same as a weapon or whatever. Okay, sure, why not? Okay, weapons just give flat damage for when they hit. That's not bad. Armor is just additional hit points, as I mentioned before. Okay, not bad. Then there's just the description of each one. Experience. Abilities and actions are improved through the accrual of experience. Experience points are gained by accomplishing tasks for the Queen and typical mission awards from 1 to 3 experience. In addition to increasing their maximum hit points by 1d4 after gaining 10, players may choose to spend the experience, another system where you spend experience, to increase any of the 3 core abilities by 1 die size, or adding 1 to one single action. So if you can be really good at striking, or you can boost your die all the way up. Not bad. Favors a degree of goodwill and approval for the Queen. It is a resource. Each player begins with 3, and you gain favor for valorous deeds, etc. Melee attacks. 6-second combat turns. Make an attack roll. They are rolling to both attack and to defend. The player matches their opponent's DR or scores higher on their roll. They deal damage. If they roll lower, then they take damage. Okay, that's not too bad. D6 for turn order. Very, very basic. They give you special moves that you can use during combat. Rules for fleeing combat. It's not too bad. It's same for both melee and ship to ship. Other text. Ranged combat does be a little different. Several systems that I've played, like simple systems, do use that basic like 1 roll to either attack or defend. Tunnels and Trolls does it. This one does something similar, but dealing with ranged attacks is always kind of quirky in those games, because if you're shooting at somebody, they're not necessarily shooting back at you. So it's treated as a completely different thing. So, yeah, shooting and aiming each take 1 turn. It does have a cover thing. For such an abstract system, it does have cover rules. And damage for ranged attacks. Which I guess uses the same rules. Yeah, this is very, very abstract, and yet it's got rules for like facing and everything for when you're at sea. That's weird. That is really weird. Sorry about that. I was responding to another message again. I got so much going on all at once. Yeah, this is really weird to see like such a facing system on an abstract combat system. I like that they have rules for naval combat, especially since it was such a big issue during that period. It looks like the stats for ships are very simple. You've got hull rating, which I presume is hit points, speed, and maneuver. In fact, the ship-to-ship combat looks more involved than the rules for like melee combat. Here's your Europe at the time. For those of you who think Europe nowadays is complex. You got background on society, the timeline of events, all useful information for somebody diving into it the first thing, and then just guidelines for designing encounters. That's not too bad. Gives you reaction checks for NPCs in case you don't know what they're going to do, which is always useful, and I don't understand why more systems don't include them nowadays. They used to include them all the time. Hit points for basic objects, surprise rules. Rules for you basically surprise for 1 round, so you don't get to fight back. Conditional modifiers for attacks into courts and everything. And then the example. So what do I think about this system, Sword and Musket? The rest of this, like half of the book, is just this sample adventure, and I'm not going to cover the Dragon of Aragon, but they have that as well. So what do I think that's a decent system, actually. I'm not 100% on it. Not 100% on it, but you know, take that as you will. I can see. I feel like the designer's heart's in the right place, and it doesn't seem poorly written. I will say that it is decently written. It seems like more of a filler type. It seems like more of a filler type of system, like what you'd use, like if you wanted to use 4 Against Darkness or whatever. I keep referring to it without pulling it out. If you wanted to use, say, 4 Against Darkness as a tabletop system, it can be done. That seems to be something very similar. It also seems to go, as I said, it goes way more in depth than or on the ocean combat than it does on the actual face-to-face combat. Now I've got 3 more things that I want to take a look at tonight, and I don't know which ones I'll take a look at first. Let's take a look at Engines and Empires, Core Rules from Relative Entropy Games. It is another pay-what-you-want system. And I will put a link in the chat here. It is... yeah, it's like steampunk, basically. It's gas lamp steampunk. As you can tell by the engineer flying a mechanical dragon over the tower or over the London Bridge. Although I kind of dread, like, that is not a normal London skyline. I feel like something drastic has happened to London there. I feel like you can't see a wall of water from the Thames that goes quite that high. I could be wrong. I'm not British. I've only been to the London Bridge once, but I feel like that's a very awkward look. Okay. All right, let's see. This is like 252 pages. So I'm not going to go as in-depth on this one. I'm going to do a real quick look at this one. So this is OSR based. I suspect a lot of it's going to be gloss overable. It is the 19th century based. Player characters. You got 4 classes. Fighter, Rogue, Tech, or 5 classes. Fighter, Rogue, Tech, or Scholar, and then Mage. Attributes are... Attributes are 3 to 18 with a standard OSR layout of +1 to +2. Actually, that's not the standard OSR layout. That's a hardcore OSR layout. That's like Swords and Wizardry style layout, where it only goes to like -2 to +2. XP adjustment is also way better. So you've got a better range there. Stats, Valor, Fortune, and Acumen and Presence. So there's only 4 stats. It uses OSR scores, but only 4 stats. Valor, Fortune, Acumen, and Presence. So it does differ there. Let's see. Going through it real quick. You got flat hit points instead of rolled hit points. You got a 2-hit bonus. I can understand that. ST is saving throw. Saving throws go up. You roll that number or lower on a D20, as opposed to that number or higher on a D20 as in a bunch of other OSR systems. So even though this is an OSR system, the system is completely different from most OSR systems I've seen, but close enough that I'm still getting it. Experience is a straightforward OSR experience category. You've got level titles, which is funny, and then skill pips, which is the total number of additional skill ranks the character can have purchased at that level. I'm presuming something like non-weapon proficiencies. Let's take a look. No alignment system. Yeah, order and chaos do exist, but they're beyond the ken of mortals. They have adjusted the classes to be more in line with the thing. But other than... It's like I can see the skeleton of an OSR system on here. So if you're familiar with OSR, you should be able to play it. Mage... I didn't see the mage on there up there. I guess the mages are adventurers who cultivated the ability to cast magical spells, which is rare. Then techs are adventuring scientists. The scholar is a versatile character type, combining a fighter and a mage. And it caps out at 10th level, although there's options for beyond 10th level. Not bad. Quick look at skills. Skills are similar to non-weapon proficiencies, just very broad. So you've got like diplomacy, craft, civics. So you've got a very limited number of them. That's doable. Okay, here's your money and equipment. Iron piece to copper piece to silver piece to gold piece. That's not realistic for the time period, but I guess that works. They use kilograms because that was just coming out just then. That's not bad. You got encumbrance level and move speeds, which are very similar to old school OSR stuff. It's completely understandable. AC is armor class is the base chance in 20 to be hit in combat when attacked, so a lower AC is better than a higher one. So use descending AC. Nice. But it does include modern armor, and here's your modern armor. Okay. There's no option for ascending AC in here, so that's purely descending AC. Weapons are same as ever. You got your damage. It's just standard OSR weapon stuff. It's just got new weapon types. Okay. Yeah, this standard... I keep on saying standard because it's just a standard OSR system with a very interesting set of classes set on it. The dev rules for dungeon adventuring, which is interesting, but there are ruins and such in such a setting. So rather than a proper dungeon, I guess you might be exploring like an old tomb, a pyramid, or something like that. Got rules for hex crawling, rules for followers. This is mostly just OSR stuff. It feels very, very 19th century, and I kind of like it. I'm not going to look through the whole thing. I'm going to call it here on this one. That's Engines and Empires. It's good. I like it. I really like it. If I was going to play some 19th century stuff, OSR stuff, I would love to run it. I would actually love to run it. And the reason it has so many rules is because there's just so much to do in the 19th century. Let's take a look at the magic. Magic is all in one thing. You've got a very weird mix of renamed OSR spells, I'm presuming, from all of the character classes. So I'm presuming Evade the Dead would be like invisibility from undead. Call the Swarm would be like Summon a Swarm. Bar the Way would be like Hold Portal or something. Yeah, so it's got a bunch of renamed OSR stuff, I think, which is actually pretty decent. The descriptions are pretty solid. Yeah, the descriptions are kind of OSR too as well. You got like a paragraph or so of description. Yeah, okay, so that's Engines and Empires. Actually a solid system. Solid system all around. Toffs in Tweeds. I don't even know if I'm going to look at this one. I don't even remember what this was. From Drolleries and Games, it is an Edwardian role-playing game. Man, a lot of alternate history role-playing games here. This one's only 17 pages. Let's take a look. It's in the Edwardian era. It can be played as a one-shot, although it can be played across 2 shorter sessions. So it's not actually a full standalone game. It's got its own game, and it's got its built-in adventure. The game takes place at the grounds of Plumwood Manor. Players have access to their personal guest room, common room of the manor, and outside grounds, as well as the nearby village of Grisham. And so there's basically a schedule of weekend activities. You create a character very swiftly. You've only got 1 primary trait, 3 secondary traits based on their occupation. It's basically a one-shot role-playing scenario. So you get something like this. Emmeline Wensleygale, 2 points of dignity, which I'm presuming is like hit points for social things. Primary trait, balloonist. Secondary traits, speechifying, sang-froid, and observation. So they got each one's got a secret, in debt from buying an especially fancy hot air balloon, and a goal that they need to accomplish during that weekend. So that's not too bad. I'm not going to go through it. I've seen a few of these games where it's just like one scenario, and some of them are better than others. I think it's interesting. I'm not going to look at the details because I'm running out here. I'm running out of time here. I am running out of time. I have one more to do, and there's only like 10 pages of, and the rest is credits and maps. Yeah. The rest is credits and sample stuff. It's only 10 pages of rules and or things. So that's Toffs and Tweeds. Let me link it. And we'll look at the last one, which is a preview item, and I'm going to check to see if it's still up, because it was up for I think a Kickstarter or something. Okay, yeah. It's a free preview of the Ghosts of Castle Nevermore, which is the first chapter of a campaign adventure for Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons that had been up on Kickstarter for a while, I think. 5th edition and Pathfinder compatible adventure. For 5 to 8 players of levels 1 to 20, because this is going to be like a whole campaign setting. I like the art. This is just the intro. 120 pages. I'm not going to go through it. It looks like there's a lot of placeholder stuff, especially look at this. Look at this page of contents. To be determined, to be determined, to be determined, etc. And this is just chapter 1. If they put it all in one book, this is going to be a massive tome. This is going to remind me of a couple other ones. What is it? Who put this out? Take a look. Dark by Design. Dark by Design has put out some decent stuff in the past, if I remember. They put out the Book of Dark Secrets stuff, which is nice. I seem to remember liking that. They put out Tombs of Frostheim, which is also nice. Yeah, they've put out some pretty solid stuff in the past. The ground level Ravenscroft Manor largely resembles the 7 rooms for the short story The Fall of the House of Usher. So it's very kind of horror-based. This adventure is a fortnight fantasy adventure that's been carefully set up to take place over the course of 14 real-world gaming session nights, which can be pretty decent. Largely inspired by the amazing short stories of Edgar Allan Poe. I feel like I probably need to head off here. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to cut the streams pretty short. I'm feeling kind of off because of this weather and such. I'm gonna have to wrap up here. Didn't expect to run this long, but we will take a look. It's got solid handouts. Nice handouts that you can hand to people. I'm liking the art. Art's good so far. It's got that it does give me that Edgar Allan Poe feel, Or that may be because my old collection of Edgar Allan Poe works used to have like the woodcut style art, and that does make me think of that. Not sure they need I think these are just placeholder pictures. Those lots of Edgar Allan Poe stuff. So it's kind of horror short stories, but less Ravenloft and more the Raven Quoth. You see what I'm saying? So more mystery, less like vampires and such. Although I presume there's got to be some vampires in there. But it is fantasy. They do have a lot of like standard fantasy tropes. Huh. It's going to be interesting to see how that happens. Amontillado, the finest wine in the world. They have Poe references in here all over the place. I'm looking at it. Okay, stats for the Castle Guards. This is not a keyed adventure at first. This is a very much a like a scheduled type of adventure, like an event-based adventure. I'm not great at event-based. Do they actually have Edgar Allan Poe in here as a character? Excuse me. Yes, they do. Sorry about that. Let me take a look. Not a Ravenscroft family member. I've been paid rather well to chronicle the happenings. My name is... Yes, they actually have Edgar Allan Poe in here as a character. Alright then. Alrighty then. He's neutral good, apparently. Sure, why not? He's a fighter level 8. I would not say that he was a fighter level 8. The real life Edgar Allan Poe is probably not a fighter level 8. I'd probably put him closer to a rogue at best. But sure, why not? You can meet Edgar Allan Poe in this thing. You'd have to learn a lot of quotes. I mean, if you're a real fan of the poetry and the stories, that'd be 100%. I kind of like the theme of this one. It because Edgar Allan Poe's stuff did tend towards mysteries as well. And in fact, didn't he write the first detective novel or something? Or the first I know, maybe not novel, but didn't he write some of the first detective stories in American literature? It's been forever since I've read his material. I feel like I should bust out the book and reread it. Just all of his stuff. So that makes sense, where you've got horror on the one side and like detective work on the other. I want to see what... I'll have to keep an eye on this one. This is a preview of Ghosts of Castle Nevermore. I'll put the link in the chat, and I've got to wrap it up here, unfortunately, because I'm starting to lose it. In case you haven't noticed, I'm starting to have trouble with my voice and such. Yeah, thanks for watching. I will go ahead and put these links. I'll probably try and get these links in a comment as well. I love covering these quick looks at pay what you want free RPGs. If you use any of these, remember to go ahead and toss them $1 or whatever. It's worth it for an evening's entertainment. It helps support people, and I look forward to seeing some of these. I will have to keep an eye on Ghosts of Castle Nevermore, because that looks like it's got some potential. It looks like it needs a lot of work, but it looks like it's got some potential if you like running those event-based stories. I need to run some more event-based stuff. I always run area, like location-based adventures. It's been a long time since I've run some really solid event-based stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you for watching. As always, go ahead and like if you liked it, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye.